Good morning and welcome to today's PyroGenesis webcast as part of the Planet MicroCap Showcase. It is now my pleasure to turn the floor over to your host, Peter Pascali, CEO of PyroGenesis.
Thank you very much for that introduction and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the PyroGenesis presentation. My name is Peter Pascali. I'm the CEO of PyroGenesis. And what you see before you is the first slide. You should see before you the first slide of our deck presentation. We are a high-tech company. We're listed on the Toronto Stock Exchange, and we're also listed on NASDAQ under the symbols PYR. And by default, because we're listed on TSX, we have a listing on the Frankfurt Exchange under the symbol 8PY. Here, forward-looking statement. You can find this deck on our website, so please read this forward-looking statement at your leisure. At the bottom of the slide, you'll see a cutaway of our facility in Montreal, to give you a bit of a sense of what our 40,000 square foot facility looks like in Montreal. For those of you that are new to the story, we are a company that uses something called plasma, which is the fourth state of matter. And I'm fond to describe the fourth state of matter in the context of what your science teacher may have described to you as there being three states of matter. And if you recall, there was the solid and liquid gas phases. If you heat one up, it becomes the other. The example of a solid was typically an ice cube. If you heat it up, it becomes a liquid, water. And if you heat up water, it becomes gas. Well, if you superheat gas, it becomes a plasma. And here on the right-hand side of the slide, you will see what we have as our plasma torches. We basically take a superheated gas and convert it into a heat source that can run up to 40,000 degrees Celsius. So it's, effectively, this is like a hair dryer. You take cold air in a hair dryer, you heat it up, it becomes hot air. Well, you superheat a gas, it becomes a plasma. So we take these plasma torches and we put them into various processes, and we find that these plasmas are very transformative, and that's what we like about it. It transforms, things from one state to another state. And we've been around for over 25 years. We've, in this period of time, have over 110 patents to our name. We have approximately 70 employees, and that's increasing recently. We have two facilities. You saw a cutaway in the previous slide of our 38 square meter facility. We also added another facility to our to where we manufacture. And over the 25 years, we have developed one of the highest concentrations of plasma expertise under one roof. We can't say we have the highest. We do not know of anybody that has a higher concentration. And this has enabled us to become a world leader in commercialized advanced plasma technologies. And you will note that we are now focusing many of our offerings on their greenhouse gas emission reduction benefits. We started refining our commercial capabilities with respect to plasma technology with the U.S. military. Many years ago, the U.S. Navy approached us because they wanted to address a problem, a challenge on the U.S. aircraft carrier, and that was namely to process waste on board this platform. They were precluded from throwing overboard anymore, and they're looking at technologies to address that problem. And at the time, they were faced with incinerators that went through 3 decks of aircraft carrier. So you can imagine this being one of the highest tech platforms in the world, where every inch in space is called for. Having a 100-ton 3-deck garbage can wasn't really something they wanted to do. So they approached us because plasma on paper could potentially be low weight and small size, lightweight and small. It had its challenges. To make a long story short, over the years, we developed a technology that has now in the design of the U.S. aircraft carrier. So we're in the design of the new aircraft carrier. We're one of the only, if not only, foreign technologies on that aircraft carrier. We have delivered 2 systems, and one in 2011 and one in 2016, and we currently have an order for 2 systems. So being in the design, when they come with an aircraft carrier, they come and ask us to do our bit, which is to destroy the garbage a particular garbage on the aircraft area. Obviously, you would not build a business around this, but what it did do in the early years was it funded our development of a commercial plasma system, arguably to one of the most discerning clients in the world. And as such, it validated our ability to provide large-scale commercial technologies offerings to very discerning clients. And it also was a segue into the four main lines of business that we are offering these days, which is iron ore pelletization, aluminum dross recovery, waste treatment, which I touched upon just a moment ago, and metal powders for additive manufacturing. We actually make small spherical powders ideal for 3D printing. So we convert wire into powders. And you might look at this and say, Peter, what are you doing, for crying out loud? Are you in metallurgy? Are you in waste treatment? Are you in 3D printings? Do you know what you're doing? And I would suggest to you, we know exactly what we're doing. We have one core competency, which is plasma technology and or knowledge derived from our expertise with plasma technology. And what we've effectively done here is we have, by providing for four different independent offerings, all key to plasma. So if we were selling tires, we'd sell them to cars, bikes, buses. We wouldn't get involved in upholstery or braking systems. We're very well concentrated, and we stick to our knitting. But at the same time, we've de-risked the company by having independent offerings. What we will also find in each one of these offerings, just like in the waste treatment with the U.S. Navy, we've aligned ourselves with multi-billion-dollar industry leaders who have vetted and adopted our technology. So to some degree, I mean, you have to do your own due diligence, but to some degree, they obviously have done their due diligence to some degree for you. Or at least if you look at our company, you won't find the technology to be lacking. Let's put it that way. So let me give you, we only have about 20 minutes because I really like to get some questions. So I'm going to rush along here, but I'd like to touch upon a couple of our offerings to give you a sense of what's happening, particularly right now in iron ore pelletization, which is just a sexy way of describing how they concentrate the iron ore at the source before transportation. How they do it currently is they use diesel burners to heat up the furnaces. Diesel burners, fossil fuel burners, damaging to the environment. They can use up to 50 in one furnace. And you can have multiple furnaces on one site. So we're talking about thousands and thousands of diesel burners damaging the environment. So what happened was we came upon an opportunity in Sweden to provide our torch. We sold our torch, we made some good money, to a group that was looking at different ways of addressing the damaging environmental effect that diesel burners have on the environment as part of Sweden's national policy to reduce their greenhouse gas or their carbon footprint to zero, I think it is, by the 2030s. So we provided our torch, we sold it. It was a competitive bid. We won the bid, we sold our torch, and the results from that were phenomenal. They found out that our torch can replace a diesel burner plug and play. Basically, you take out the diesel burner, you replace it with our plasma torch, you make some adjustments, and you're off to the races. What I find even more interesting is you don't have to shut down the furnace. To do this, you can keep the furnace operating and start changing out the diesel burners with plasma torch, which means there's really no effect on revenue. You don't have to shut down one of these furnaces to do the change. And third, and really interesting is, it probably makes a lot of sense to do this anyways, notwithstanding the environmental benefits it has. It probably makes a lot of sense to do this anyways. So what we described, coming out of those results from Sweden, we didn't realize the impact it would have on the industry, because we didn't realize the pressure the industry was under. The iron ore pelletization industry is under a lot of pressure from environmentalists, as you can imagine, from their shareholders and their board, but more interestingly, actually from lending institutions who are tending to tie their lending facilities against these iron ore pelletizers reducing or meeting certain greenhouse gas targets. So as soon as this news came out from Sweden, we were inundated with interest from these multi-billion-dollar iron ore pelletizers. You have to understand, they're multi-billion-dollar companies. They're on a certain path. They didn't know we existed. They didn't know about this particular benefit. And they, first of all, obviously there's a period of time where they have to, find out who we are we really doing what we say we're doing? And then they went through a phase where they do a computer simulation. They asked us to do a computer simulation with respect to their particular facility, just to check the box, to make sure there's nothing untoward happening. And then it goes towards an order, it seems, of between 1 and 5 torches, again, to check the box. We've in our press release, identified 3 clients, A, B, and C. We haven't identified any more. We just, to give a sense that there's three people out there who are interested, iron ore pelletizers, who are interested in pursuing this strategy. Between the 3 of them, they have a potential need for over 1,000 torches. At the time, we press released that we thought each torch would have a net present value of $3 million to us. We progressed along with each of them, and we've already signed for 1 torch from client A for $1.8 million, which, and I can go into another time, that makes the $3 million look conservative. In the $3 million net present value number that we press released earlier, we had a lower price for the torch order. So anyways, moving right along, where are we with respect to iron ore pelletization? It's moving along. The clients are in this phase. There has been some delays. I suggest it might be because if they're going to change out their torches, it's quite an expense, and if they can tap into government funding, that's probably what I would do if I was them. And the government funding, there seems to be a lot of government funding in support of changing out, to doing these type of things, supporting environmental initiatives as a way of stimulating the economies. Anyway, that's just my insight. But everything's moving along as we expected. We do have the patent on this process. I mean, we have a patent to replace diesel burns with plasma torches in the iron ore pelletization industry. We do not have it in other industries, but we definitely have a first mover advantage. And we're finding interest coming from cement, steel, aluminum, and automotive as well. Just in iron ore pelletization, we estimate that the potential marketplace is, somewhere close to $10 billion. Very interesting. How do we address a big order? That's been asked me many times, so in anticipation of that question, let me address it now. Effectively, we make plasma torches. We can make them on site, but we can make them off site as well. So for large orders, we have suppliers that would make the plasma torches for us. We would drop ship the torches to the site. The iron ore pelletizer, they have a lot of engineering expertise on site. We could, even in COVID, help them install it remotely. That wouldn't be a problem. And every torch thereafter, we could just drop ship and they could install it. So it's a really interesting business. The bottleneck might be, I suggest, because you need project managers to manage the suppliers, correct? I mean, you need project managers, so we'd have to hire more project managers. But I suggest to you that that's not really something that's in short supply. You don't really need any special expertise for that. I mean, you don't need any special plasma expertise, at least. The second offering I'd like to touch upon is our aluminum dross recovery, which is a mature, commercially available technology. Essentially, what our aluminum dross recovery system does, it recovers a valuable metal from a waste stream that comes out of an aluminum smelter. So what happens in an aluminum smelter is aluminum comes off, it comes in contact with oxygen, it forms a sponge layer that sucks up the valuable metal. That's called dross. They don't like that, so they skim off the dross and they put it to the side. But as you can assume, it has valuable metal in there. So what they do traditionally, is they transport it to offsite to a third party that typically uses a rotary salt furnace. And that's why it has to be off-site, because the salt cannot come in contact with the smelter because it'll contaminate the smelter, it'll contaminate the batch. So it has to be off-site. So you've got costly transportation. You have to heat it up, cool it down, transport it, heat it up, process it, cool it down, transport it back. So there's a lot of transportation, and heating up and cooling down, and you also get low metal recovery. What's more importantly, you get a hazardous residue. You get these salt cakes that result from using the salt. Along comes PyroGenesis. We do not use salt. We have a system that's salt-free called Dross, right? So we can be on-site, no transportation, no heating up, cooling off, lower OPEX, and guess what? We get a much higher recovery of aluminum, and we get a clean residue. I'll come back to this in a second. Let me just skip forward quickly and share with you the price point history of Drossite. Our first order, $600K. We had to basically, nobody believed that we could have a process that did not use salt. Eventually, the same client bought another system shortly thereafter for $1 million. Fast forward to 2019, we sold 7 systems for roughly $20 million. The largest order ever put out to bid to handle Dross. Our technology won it. It's a multi-billion-dollar aluminum smelter who was looking for best in class. What's interesting about this order was we had what we call the golden ticket. It enables us to be inside the fence and see what do they do, what other opportunities are there inside the fence. Well, guess what? This clean residue, we found out what they do with it. What they do with this is they either landfill it or they sell it as a flux to the cement industry, very cheap. Well, we know of a technology that can actually take this residue and make it into high-value specialty chemicals, like aluminum and ammonium sulfide. And what we've said publicly is we're teaming up with this technology and executing what I like to call our coffee and donut strategy. We're selling coffee, we're selling Drossite, we're going to sell Drossite, we're going to sell this other technology, like a donut alongside of it for very little added cost on our side. We're already talking to them, and guess what? We are actually addressing a new problem because governments around the world are starting to ban the landfilling of that clean residue, even though it's clean. So it's a very interesting, Drossite on its own is a powerful offering, but when we add on this other technology, it makes it even more compelling. Additive Manufacturing, we produce powders for 3D printing, metal powders for metal 3D printing, small spherical metal powders. The takeaway here is that we were approached several years ago by Aramet, subsidiary Aubert & Duval. They did not have titanium powders, and Aubert & Duval services the aerospace industry, the additive manufacturing industry in Europe. So the long and the short of it is we have an exclusive arrangement with them where we will supply them with titanium powders exclusively, and they will sell titanium powders exclusively to the 3D printing industry in Europe. What's amazing here is that we were told that in their 100-year history, Aramet has never sold, until us, never sold something they don't own. So that speaks again to our credibility as a company, but more so in terms of our product offering. The reason there was certain delays in getting this off the ground is we wanted to incorporate in our production line significant benefits. We had found a way to increase the production rate significantly and at the same time reduce the cost of production. It was a win-win, and we wanted to lock this down because we learned with dealing with Aubert & Duval that OEMs, when they give you a contract, they basically don't let you change your production line. So guess what? In the past 2 days, we announced first that our next gen, we call it our next gen production line, is in place and it's operating. And we're going to do some test runs and we're going to be making powder available. Immediately after that, a first-tier aerospace company, we signed a contract with them. They're going to qualify us, or they're going to go through the process of qualifying us to be a supplier. That doesn't guarantee that we're going to have revenues, of course, but they're spending hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars to do that. So I would suggest that maybe their intention is to actually, at the end of the day, buy some powders. So what I described to you real quickly in the past 20 minutes are the 4 offerings that we're currently, commercial offerings that have been vetted to some degree by multi-billion-dollar companies, are in commercialization. I haven't had the time to talk to you about all of the derivative opportunities that we've already identified. People know us for this and are buying us for this. This is almost like a freebie, correct? I touched upon the residue. I did not have time to talk about torches that we're developing for tunneling, nor about this very unique relationship we have with a client by the name of HPQ, who's converting quartz to high purity silicon metal for the solar panels, and then converting it further to nanopowders and lithium iron wire for lithium ion batteries. Very, very interesting offering for the aerospace industry. From a financial perspective, we're at an inflection point for pretty much any financial matrix you look at. Our backlog has increased from about $7 million about 18 months ago to, I think the last time we pressed it was $30 million. Our momentum in our backlog is driving near-term profitability. Last year, our year-over-year results were from $4 or $5 million 2019 revenues to something like 17, 18 million in 2020. So that was for that period of time. And our profit from operations, our income from operations for the year after share-based compensation was over $3 million. We currently have approximately, not currently, last time we mentioned approximately $27 million cash on hand. We have no debt. We say approximately zero because we have a $190,000 interest-free loan from a Canadian government on some project we did. So basically it's no debt when you have $27 million. Our EPS is 28 cents when it's all said and done versus negative 7 cents last year. We have mentioned that with the strong balance sheet, that we have, relatively no debt, significant cash on hand, that it will accelerate a natural growth or a natural organic growth, leveraging again off golden ticket opportunities. But we've also identified synergistic mergers and acquisitions. We are targeting private companies, small acquisitions. Everything is focusing on GHG emissions reduction. And as an example, on Dross, right, if you recall what I just said, significant business sales price increase from 600. Then we sold 7 systems for $20 million. We won the biggest order ever put out to bid. We never talked about greenhouse gas emissions. It works on its own. In our company, our offerings work on their own, and that's the beauty of our offerings. We don't rely on greenhouse, on environmental grants and things like that. It's a tailwind. Oh, definitely, it will be a tailwind into our sales and our pipeline, but we don't depend on it. And the synergistic mergers will be within that scope. In fact, we announced recently that we're targeting a client, a target in the renewable natural gas sector. There'll be more on that coming out in the near future. So what I've described to you is a company supported by patents and a plasma technology basis that's been vetted and adopted by multiple million-dollar industry leaders. They're fully commercialized solutions. We've also identified significant potential large market applications in derivative offerings. We have a very strong balance sheet, and we're focusing our offerings and their benefits being, greenhouse gas emission reduction. There's a very strong alignment of management and shareholders. When I say that, I'm speaking basically to my ownership in the company, which ranges any given day between 48 and 52%. I've only been selling recently so that I could exercise a warrant, so net increasing the number of shares that I own. I'm guided by an experienced board. Myself and Radina are the only employee board members. Bob Brand is a retired two-star general, U.S. two-star general. Dr. Jha, for those that don't know, he's a member of the Order of Canada. The Order of Canada is the highest award you can give somebody who's not in military service. And then we have very strong financial support in the names of Andrew, Rodney Beveridge, and Ben. That is the the quick 20-25 minute presentation, and I would open it up now to questions. If you just give me a second, I'll see what we got there. You're right on the top of the list. Sandy asked, is there any reason for the recent drop in share price? I'm precluded from really talking about share prices, specifically, but I'll talk in a general sense. There's a lot of things that affect share price. Some have nothing to do with the company. I can say that, from my perspective, the company is better yesterday than it was today. It was better a week ago, yesterday than it was a week ago. It was better a week ago than it was a month ago. What I'm trying to say is we have been improving both financially and our offerings and our pipeline. In fact, I never talk about pipeline, never. And I don't like talking about pipeline because it could be abused by people who speak to it. I did it for the first time recently. I said that we have a pipeline, and I was very specific how I defined it. Something that would be signed within 6 months, and something that we are very close to signing. Either we're the only person being asked to quote, or of the people quoted, we're the leader. And that is over $65 million right now. And I thought for the first time, I have to talk about that. And I did it in a press release because it's significant. It really is significant, and it's very real. I mean, it may all just disappear. It's pipeline, right? It's not backlog until you sign the contract. But the fact that we're talking those type of numbers now, I think, reflects a change in the opportunities the company is seeing. So I apologize, Sandra. I can't speak more specific than that. Just generalities. How does it feel to have increased the share price by such a high percentage rate over the years and producing the doubters wrong time and time again? Look, it's part of my business. The business I'm in, you go from being a zero to a hero in 60 seconds and a hero to zero in 1 minute. I mean, it doesn't affect me one way or another. I mean, I'm happy because the news got out. What happened was during COVID, we were shut down, right? Everybody was shut down, and fund managers and high net worth individuals, investors, had the time to look at our complicated offering. We're not a buzzword. We're not a Bitcoin buzzword. We're not a cannabis buzzword. It takes a little bit of gray matter to get and understand what we're doing. And when they did, we became the most blogged company in Canada last year. And so we got known. And what I like about it is we got known, and people liked what we're doing, and they bought our shares. That's a big turn on, basically. I mean, what you're doing is being validated by people who took the time to listen. That's exciting. And so that's how it feels. In November, you got an order for your first plasma torch. It's been stated that it takes about 2 months to make one. Has that torch been delivered? If not, when? We can't talk about that. I'm sorry, we can't talk about that. Based on our agreement that we have with the client, we just can't speak to things of that nature. But it's moving. It's moving along. And I would ask you, do you really care whether it takes an extra month or not, if it's moving along in the right direction? Peter, you mentioned previously that the company could be interested in spinning off some of the divisions for the Empire. Is this something the company is... Okay, sorry, I'm talking too fast. I have maybe okay, so Peter, if you have mentioned previously the company could be interested in spinning off some of the divisions within Pyro. Is this something that the company is still looking at? If so, is this something that the company is looking at implementing in the near future? So this gentleman is speaking, or this person is speaking to the fact that the board and I believe that the less complicated the company is, it's easier to understand, the better it is all the way around. And yes, we still have that view as a company. I can't speak to timeframes. What is the size of the atomized powder market PYR is targeting? What is the projected growth rate for this market? I think this is a difficult one to answer but there's some publications out there that can give you the size of the market. What we're doing is, look, I would target 100%, I'm a pig, I want it all. But the thing is, you can see from our advancements, not are we targeting the existing market, but our advancements allow the market to increase. By us increasing the production rate, what we effectively have done is open up the possibilities for 3D printers to consider other wires. So we're increasing the space. That's, I think, a very big takeaway. So it's 10:30. Apologize. There's a lot more questions. please send them to the questions I didn't get to, please send them to our IR at PyroGenesis.com. I will answer them. I'm known for answering questions that within the context of public information. Thank you very much for taking your time and joining me this morning. I look forward to continuing the discussion. All the best to you.
Thank you. This does conclude today's webcast. Thank you for participating and have a wonderful day.